Hey, my name is Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show, and you are listening to The Daily Dose. And today I want to share a story with you. Today is Thursday, June 16th, 2022, and everybody is super concerned if real estate still makes sense. But I want to share a story with you that really kind of drove the point home to me. I was talking to a friend of mine, Frank, and Frank's a real estate agent in California, and he shared a story with me that happened to him over the course of last weekend and the beginning of this week. Frank has a beautiful house with a nice big pool, and the lights in his pool, the underwater lights, went out. And he called his pool guy, and the pool guy referred him to a specialist, an electrician who works on underwater lighting. And the man came out to Frank's house, and he was awesome. He fixed the lights. That's not the point of the story. The point of the story is he and Frank started talking, just, general coffee cup conversation while Frank was standing back there watching the man work on the pool. And come to find out, the pool electrician's name is Rob. And Rob and Frank started talking about real estate, and Rob shared a story. Rob loves where he lives. He's been renting the same house for 24 years. He shared how awesome his landlord is. Anytime anything needs to be fixed, it's done immediately. Awesome landlord. And the landlord shared with Rob how much he loves having him as a tenant. And they were joking around, and he told Rob, this is the landlord speaking, "You are my best and favorite tenant. You've been with me the longest, and thank you for paying off my house." Get that for a minute. Rob's been renting for 24 years, and he paid off his landlord's house, the property that he's renting. And that just kind of blew him away. And Rob's not a young man, but he's not an old man either. Frank tells me Rob's probably late 40s. And at that moment, Rob was convinced that he needs to buy a property. So he and his wife started talking, and they decided to make the landlord an offer to buy the house. So he called his landlord and told him his plan and said, "We love living here. It's been an amazing place. We've been here for 24 years. Would you consider selling the house?" Well, the landlord said, "Let me think about it for a minute. I'm going to call my CPA and we'll talk over the tax ramifications of selling and see if it makes sense." Couple days go by, the landlord calls Rob and says, "Hey, Rob, I'm sorry. I just don't think it makes sense for me to sell the property right now." Wow. Rob realized that in the past 24 years, he could have paid off his own house. But anyway, long story short, Rob was convinced that he needed to buy a property because in 24 more years, he can have his place paid off. And yeah, I get it, right? If you want shade, the best time to have planted a tree was 50 years ago, but the next best time is right now. So kudos to Rob and his wife for realizing that they need to take matters into their own hands. And Rob and his wife were not controlling their own destiny. He paid off the rental property that he had been in. And to Frank's assessment, it's about a $750,000 house. So let that sink in for a minute. That could have been Rob and his wife's equity. And guess what? In the last 24 years, interest rates have been up, interest rates have been down. Sales volume has been up. Sales volume has been down. We've been in crazy housing markets, cooling housing markets. So long term, it always makes sense to own real estate. I pulled a chart, and I just want to share this with you because I know we're in a raising interest rate market. And this story about Rob and his wife and Frank's pool lights may sound interesting, but you still say, man, rates are going through the roof. This is crazy. Well, so going back to 1996, we've had 5 significant rate hike periods, and they range in intensity and length. But here's the cool thing. In all 5 of these interest rate hike environments going back to 1996, housing in all instances except one, the sales volume slowed. But here's the significant point. The home prices in that same period of time increased in one period as much as 13%. So, and lastly, you're never that guy who's going to time the market perfectly. If you're looking for a place to live and you want a place to raise your family or start a family or just to call your own, 5 and 6% interest rates should not deter you if you can afford to buy it. So anyway, that's the story of Frank and Rob. Don't be Rob. Go out there and get a place of your own and start building some equity. I hope that helps. If you found any of this interesting, I encourage you to listen to the Mr. Mortgage Show. We're live every Saturday morning at 9 a.m. on iHeartRadio. You can catch us on the iHeart app, or you can find the entire library of podcasts and recorded shows. All the replays are there too at themrmortgageshow.com. Check out the Facebook page. Go to Facebook, search The Mr. Mortgage Show, and you'll find a ton of interesting data there. We post every day to that page to try to keep everybody up to date. So anyway, my name is Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You've been listening to the Daily Dose, and we will talk again tomorrow.